Hi there, this video's got live. Heatwave health advice from the UK doctors. UK 2022.
Nice to see that you're dressed for it though. I'm loving the style.
Caribbean style t-shirt. I should have brought mine with me, I left it behind. Oh well.
Maybe physically can't deal with this. You know, we might talk about trying to enjoy it, and that's crucial, but it does come with warnings for a reason, and it's because we're just not set up to cope with it, particularly in this country if we're not used to it. But just our bodies shouldn't be coping with 40-degree heat.
No, I mean our normal body temperature, core body temperature is 37 degrees, and whether the weather is really, really cold or really, really hot, our bodies have internal mechanisms and internal ways of trying to get us back to that core body temperature, which is where all our bodily functions function well. The problem with extreme heat is our blood vessels dilate, our blood pressure goes down. We have to work harder, our hearts have to pump harder.
Just like going up a hill, basically.
Just to keep us ticking
and breathing more.
As we would normally do. And, you know, the thing with the level 4 warning...
There's the Javelin, high-speed 1 train to Kent.
Less hot than that. The difference with the level 4 is it doesn't just affect those who are vulnerable, it can affect absolutely anyone. So it's not just, as we've said before, the elderly, the young. These extreme heat temperatures can affect literally anyone. Clearly, if you've got underlying health problems...
I agree with that. I know someone called Matthew which struggled with it back in June.
You're more at risk, that's a given. But it can literally affect anyone. If your blood pressure can drop, you can get dehydrated, you can get heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
Chris, what is the science of
That was June 2022.
Well, the body's best way of keeping cool is, of course, with sweat. And you can sweat prodigious amounts. In the right conditions, you can...
Unless you drink very quickly, which is not advisable. Drink very slowly.
And the way that works
otherwise it goes out your mouth.
Sweat, which
Well,
is made
up your face.
basically filtering the liquid part of blood out through very thin blood vessels which have got holes in their walls, and the salty water comes out into sweat glands and then onto the surface of the water. As that water evaporates from your skin, it takes with it extra heat from the skin. It's called the latent heat of evaporation, and that energy cools your skin down. And as Helen was saying, because your body, when you get too hot, diverts a lot of your blood flow to the skin of your peripheries especially. There's lots of hot blood next to cooler skin, and that helps to take the heat away from the blood, so you return to the core of your body colder blood, and that brings your body temperature down.
But you do then need to replace that fluid, presumably.
Absolutely. And if you are losing up to 5 litres an hour, which, you know, in very hot, very humid countries, people may struggle to maintain their temperature, but you do sweat prodigious amounts. That is coming from somewhere. Your body is about 2/3 water, so you've got plenty of water on board to do that in the short term, but if you keep losing water in that way, you will dehydrate, you will lose total body water, and this will rob effectively water from your circulation. And if you drop the volume of your circulation, your blood flow, you will therefore lower your blood pressure, which is why you then feel faint. And people who are already under conditions of, say, jeopardy because they're on blood pressure lowering medication, or they can't maintain enough of a blood pressure, or they already have low blood pressure naturally, they're at more risk of fainting, which is why drinking to replace what you put in is important, but don't overdo it. Drink when you feel thirsty. Don't force yourself to drink, because the body is really good at regulating how much water you have on board. It's very sensitive. Your brain is continuously tasting how salty your blood is, and it uses that measure of the saltiness of the blood to work out the concentration of the blood, and therefore how dehydrated you are. So when it detects that the salt level is rising, it makes you feel thirstier to put back the water. So drink when you feel like it. Don't force yourself to drink too much, or you'll make yourself ill in the opposite direction.
And all of that is absolutely fascinating, and it's little regular sips, isn't it, that we should be doing?
And Helen, you know, we hear all this advice, don't we? And a lot of it is stay indoors and...
Exactly. Don't drink too much in one go.
The reality for a lot of people is they'll still be trying to get to work, they'll be getting to school...
Keep your mouth shut when you're out and about. Just breathe through your nose if you can.
What can we think about if we can't just stay...
And don't breathe in those toxic air pollutions in the air.
You know, there's still things we can do.
Put a face mask on if you want to. Might be too hot for it though.
Necessity. We must carry fluid with us. You know, we are in this level 4. We're at risk of things like cars breaking down, railways stopping. You know, when you go out of the house, just make sure you've got enough supplies with you. Make sure you've got fluid with you. Make sure you've got you know, your phone with you, etc., because things could well go wrong.
Get some bottles of water.
You know, stay indoors if you can, but obviously that's not always possible. If you are out and about working, then just try and get some shade. Have regular periods out of direct sunlight if you absolutely can't avoid it. And if you do start to feel dizzy and lightheaded, and you're sweating,
You've got heat stroke.
really overheated, that could be a sign of heat exhaustion.
Stop.
Really
Get in the
important
shade.
within 30
Chill
minutes
out.
of feeling like that, you get inside, you get cooled down, you get plenty of fluids to
Don't
prevent
push yourself to hell's end.
heat stroke.
Even for young.
Good advice. Thank
Just
you.
slow it all down. I think that's the other thing, isn't it? If you normally operate at 90 miles an hour.
Trust me from experience. 25 Celsius is hard enough, but 35, 40.
We'll move on to one or two other important
It's no walk in the park.
Talk about COVID because of the spike in cases we've seen. We were hearing from Professor Adam Finn earlier, who was saying, look, we think we're probably near the peak of this particular wave. But how are you reading it and the way these Omicron variants are working their way through the population at the moment?
Well, we've had 3 bumps this year. We had the Omicron bump in January.
Yeah, which is nasty. I caught that one.
Probably stimulated by a reduction in restrictions, the slow waning of immunity in the general population, and the arrival of more variants, spin-offs of Omicron. And now we're into a 3rd bump, which again is probably provoked by all of those same factors, but also the arrival of more variants. But the thing that I'm looking at is, are they translating into consequences, these cases? Yes, there are people in hospital. This bump is a bit smaller than the previous 2 bumps. But there are not people in intensive care with anything like the rates that we were seeing, say, 2 years ago.
Aye.
And we've seriously broken the link by vaccination, but also natural immunity from people just catching and topping up their infection, immunity thanks to infection. So we're not seeing that translation of cases into consequences with anything like the rate that we were. So in some respects, I'm reassured that we do have good levels of immunity in the population. But I'm looking forward in time, because what we must do is take our eye off the autumn ball, because coming in the autumn will be another seasonal surge of all the usual suspects that will rear their ugly heads when the schools go back, because when schools go back, people have come back on holiday, everyone's mixing together indoors again, and these are the perfect scenarios and settings for all kinds of diseases to surge, and flu is going to be among them. And in countries like New Zealand and Australia at the moment, where it's their winter, it's their flu season, they are having quite a hard time with flu. So we are going to be keeping a weather eye on what the flu is doing, and hopefully preparing for that to come here as well, because we'll expect COVID to continue to cause problems, but flu is one we must watch for this winter.
What a cheery thought.
It's all Game of Thrones.
For the rest of the year, but Chris, forewarned is forearmed and all that, isn't it? Helen, let's talk a little bit about boosters, because look, I'm still surprised there's 3 million adults who haven't come forward for any sort of vaccine. We're now at the point of new variants, aren't we? We're talking about booster jabs. Previously it was for the 65s and over and vulnerable people. Now the suggestion is it will be 50 and above. That starts in the autumn. That feels like quite a way though, doesn't it, to autumn, given the case numbers that we're seeing right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're making plans in primary care to start this ball rolling for this vaccine programme in September. And as you've said, it's going to go down to 50s. It's also going to cover carers, unpaid carers, which is really good news, because I've had a lot of people ask me about that. And you know, those
like your parents, your mum's your carer,
have clinical conditions that meet
your father.
criteria. So, and that will cover anybody over 5, I believe, not just adults. So, and similarly, people living with people who are immunocompromised over 5 will also be eligible. So, yeah, it's really been widened out. And the flu programme has also been widened out, because I was on earlier in the year talking about flu being put back to the 65 and above. It's going to be widened out again, I believe, back down to 50 and above will be eligible for the flu vaccine, and all children up to age year 9.
And will people come in for both at the same time? Because there's also a lot of questions on about what vaccine we're offering, because these are new variants, and are the old vaccines still capable of dealing with it?
Yeah. It's always a little bit of a hit and miss with the flu vaccine, because supply and delivery of the vaccine doesn't always happen when we want it to, in the numbers that we want it to happen in primary care. We've now got to try and tie that in with the supply and delivery of the COVID vaccinations. We did manage to vaccinate both flu and COVID last year quite a considerable number of people by giving them one in each arm, which really helped us in terms of the delivery, because this is no mean feat to vaccinate all these people. So it helps in terms of people only having to come once. It helps in terms of people being vaccinated for both and not having to wait in between, and also the delivery of the programme. So we're hoping we'll be able to vaccinate for both together, but there's logistics around that might be out with our control in all parts of the country.
Of course, there's so much to juggle, isn't it, to get this right. Thank you for that really fascinating insight to so many issues right now. Dr. Helen Wall, thank you for being with us, and Dr. Chris Smith.
If you like this video, please thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, Sun Gems, and 4-speed video always quite best what the needs so many. That way, YouTube, please subscribe to my channel, Sun Gems. Thanks for watching, bye.